Hey, this is Giles. I am your host for 40 Under 40, sponsored by Urban Arts Magazine. Super excited to talk to all these amazing young professionals doing some amazing things in their field, whether that's theater, dance, music, television, art, visual arts, as well as media. And today we have another amazing young creative who is out here kicking butt and taking names, has worked off Broadway, has moved to New York and really has made a role as a director his own, has worked with some phenomenal talent as well as organizations. Help me welcome to the stage, Dominique Rider. Dominique, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am well. Well, first of all, congratulations on being one of our 40 Under 40.
Thank you so much. What a surprise.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about who Dominique Ryder is.
Yeah, I mean, Dominique Ryder is a Texan who is out here in these New York streets trying to make something happen. Dominique Ryder is a director who is working on new plays and trying to make a real case for why we might need to revisit some of the older Black plays that I think get forgotten a lot. Dominique is, tired a lot these days. That's who Dominique Ryder is.
Okay. So talk to me about how you got started in theater.
That's a really funny question, especially coming from you. So I started in theater as an actor. I started taking, I think, improv classes when I was younger because my mama wanted to give me something to do. And I went to the illustrious Skyline High School in Dallas, Texas, under the steady and firm hand of one Giles King. And really, I think when I was in high school, because of the partnership that Skyline had with Dallas Theater Center, saw for the first time what theater could maybe be at its most produced, at its biggest, at its most boisterous. And really became interested, I think, in watching you direct us, and then in watching what was happening at DTC. Really started becoming interesting in the mechanical parts of directing, of what does it mean to be a director? What does it mean to have a vision? What does it mean to work with actors, be that teenagers or professional adults, and how does that work? And then I went to college. And I realized, I think halfway through, I was like, oh, acting just doesn't feel as fulfilling as it used to. And I think I realized I wanted to be able to have more input and more control over what stories I was doing, instead of just having to do cattle call auditions and just sort of being at the whim of other people's storytelling. I wanted to be at the forefront of it. And so I really made a really big shift in college to just focusing primarily and solely on directing. And then I moved to New York because I wasn't quite sure how to be a director professionally. Because we have DTC and we have the Alley in Houston, but I didn't feel like there was a real place to learn about directing. And I didn't want to go to an MFA program. And so I moved to New York to really understand what it took to be a director, what it meant to be a director professionally. And been here ever since.
Okay, so a lot of good nuggets in there. So question about the MFA program. Let's start there. So you decided against going the education route of MFA in directing, and decided to get it in the mud, so to speak. Yeah. And so how do you think that has worked out for you? What experiences have you had to see, this was the right decision, or maybe I should have done something different?
It really was so New York is a very expensive city, one. But a thing that I got to do in when I was first here is there are so many readings happening in New York, right? There are readings of new plays, there are readings of revivals happening. And once you're sort of tuned in, it becomes really easy to make that happen. And so what I was doing is I was just going to see all of these readings and meeting directors that were working there. And it was sort of a dual process because we didn't have a playwriting program at my undergrad. So I'd never worked on a new play. And I felt like I really wanted to, rather than just sort of throwing myself into academia and learning that way. I wanted to watch people do it in the real world. I wanted to watch people who had been doing it professionally and outside of academia doing it, so I could learn what those things meant practically and not just sort of like what these things meant theoretically. I needed to learn about budgets. I needed to learn about, budgeting. And I wanted to do that with folks who were much farther along in their career than I was, and not just sort of like with a cohort of other people in similar places and like this sort of professor who was hovering over. I really wanted it to be, I think you said it well, like in the mud with everyone and seeing how things were built.
Makes sense. So do you think that was do you think that was the best decision for you, and has it paid off is my question?
It has paid off. And I think, I don't know what the other, whatever the multiverse the other Dominique is doing,
right,
who got an MFA. And I also think, I think in talking to you when I was still in high school and even when I was still in college, right, directing MFAs are not looking for people that were as young as I was when I graduated.
Right.
I would have needed to have waited, I think probably until now, or even a little bit older to really get the attention in an MFA directing program like I needed. And so I think it's paid off because there didn't feel like there was another option.
Gotcha. Makes sense. So when you got to New York, you landed this really, really cool opportunity with the National Black Theater. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So that was, I landed that opportunity, I think 2 years after coming to New York, to be one of the director in residence for the National Black Theater. So the NBT has this residency program they've had for a long time with playwrights. They just started, and producers, for Black playwrights, Black producers, to bite their teeth to get a workshop production. And they added, I think in 2018, a residency for directors that was geared for, Black directors do not have the same opportunities. It also, just take a step back from that, right? White directors oftentimes do not have the opportunities to just do whatever they want, right? So if they don't, we ain't.
Right.
And so what NBT was saying was, come here to develop a canon of work, to develop a body of work, to sharpen instincts, to sharpen skills, and we'll pay for it. So in a lot of ways, they describe it as a dream MFA program, right? Because you're not paying anything out of pocket. You just have to live in the city, and they take care of everything else. And that was an amazing opportunity to really, one, be inside of an institution, to have that kind of institutional support, to still have that kind of institutional support, because my last year is this year because of the pandemic, and to really get to meet a lot of people that I might not have had access to otherwise.
Right. And then there was a off-Broadway stint of something happening, possibly.
Yeah, possibly. And then like 3 things happened, and then the pandemic happened. It's really what happened with that.
Pretty much.
But there is, and so that was supposed to be with NBT. That is no longer on the table. But there is something elsewhere that is potentially, I don't think I can talk about it much, but it's potentially in the works for winter of 23. So, some things can't happen, but it means some things can.
Some things can. So how have you found it to, as a director who was once an actor, to shepherd new plays to the stage, and having that conversation with playwrights, and like those tough conversations? How have you found that to be for you?
Yeah, I think one of the hard things that I feel about being an artist is sometimes it's hard to track growth. And it feels really difficult to know when you have grown. And so for me, the thing that I always use to track is like, how are my conversations with playwrights changing? I used to be very, very nervous and afraid to like give a playwright a no, because, I want to keep working with you. I want to keep collaborating with you. And if I give you this no that might not ruin your entire play, but change it, you might want to go somewhere else, right? And so I think for me, really being able to dig into a play with a writer and say, this moment is working, this moment is not. Have you considered like shifting this moment? Because I think it'll meld better with what you're working on towards the end, has been very useful and helpful in navigating, right? Because it's one of those things where a playwright can send a play, to a theater company. An actor can send a video reel. Directors are usually sending pictures. And I found the truth of it is, especially for emerging and early career directors, the thing you're actually sending is a play, because institutions are like, oh, we want to get to know you. Send us the play that you're working on, as opposed to, just having a conversation with me, which would probably be easier for everybody involved.
Right.
So it's making sure that like the plays that I'm working on feel in a good enough place to send out, so that it can be an opportunity, not just for the playwright, but for me.
Got it. All the Natalie Portmans, was that the MPT show?
No, that was the last thing I did pre-pandemic. Yeah. Well, that was an off-Broadway. That was a different off-Broadway show.
It was a different off-Broadway show.
Yeah.
Got it. So that was a pretty high-profile show, all the Natalie Portmans.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. So can you tell us like how you got to that opportunity?
Yeah. So the one of the routes that a director can take in especially younger emerging, I don't think younger means emerging, but is like assistant directing. And so when I moved to the city, that was the route that I decided to go, because I didn't want to self-produce. I spent a lot of time helping other people self-produce in Dallas and didn't want to do it by myself. I was like, I don't know if I'm built for this the way that you are, or the other folks in Dallas were. And so I sort of started building out a plan, and the plan was I wanted to know what theater was like on a budget of like off Broadway, where like you are working with, next to nothing, how you make theater there. And so I did some assistant work there. And then I just really started working my way through. I went from off to a regional gig. That regional gig got me an off-Broadway gig. And so Natalie Portman's was really weird, actually, because I knew the playwright and I knew essentially the entire acting company, but I'd never met with the director.
Oh, wow.
And so I got that offer. I got that offer New Year's when I came home in 2019, like to visit family. And I was like, yeah, I can't be here for maybe this first week because I'm just out of town and my schedule has been booked to be out of town.
Right.
I had a call with the director while I was in Dallas. It went well, even though we'd never met before. We never met in person. It was just a phone call. And then I was back in New York that next week in first rehearsals.
Wow.
And so the way it happened was that a friend who even at that point wasn't really a friend, we just met each other at New York Theater Workshop, just because she was in like the development office, had gotten a new job at MCC. And she was like, Dominique is a director. Dominique is a Black director. Is there a way we can get Dominique connected to this institution? And it just worked out that way.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And who was attached to that show?
Montego Glover was, I think, the biggest name. Yeah, Montego Glover was attached.
I think she was nominated for a Tony for Memphis.
Memphis,
yeah. But I know she was nominated for Memphis. And so now you are working in a different space, but still kind of theatrical. Is that correct?
The museum work is I think deeply theatrical, and it's not. The museum work is deeply theatrical. I'm still doing theater. I'm working on another. I'm the associate director for 2 upcoming shows. One at New York Theater Workshop, one at the new space in New York, The Shed, that are like right after each other. And then there's like the sort of more. I'm directing a thing for the New York Philharmonic next week, and so it's like the. I haven't told you about that one. I'll send you a video after the interview. It's different, but it's in so many ways it's the same, because in museums or this Philharmonic thing, right? Like the thing that I'm interested in is, what are we doing with live performance? How does live performance live in this space? Right. Even if we're taking it off of, a proscenium, there is still some aspect of liveness, and generally, museums got more money.
That's true.
And so there are more things you can do.
So can you talk? I heard you said this a couple of times. Can you tell us the difference between an associate director and assistant director?
Sure can. Yeah. So when you think about big musicals, right? it's probably better to think about that in terms of associate directing. So what so let's just say Hadestown, which is on Broadway right now. Hadestown has this
Dallas on tour.
Oh, it's coming to Dallas?
It just left.
Oh, it just left. Okay, that's actually perfect. Right. Hadestown is this huge production. There comes a point in the process where the show is open, the show is running. The original director, Rachel Chapkin, is no longer coming in. She might come in, you know, once a month, twice a month, something like that, to look at it. But there is an associate who has been hired to essentially take over the production, to maintain the original vision, to maintain the original ideas, and to continue it on. And the production you saw in Dallas, right, is Rachel's original direction. There is an associate director, Chica Ike, who is a friend of mine, who takes care of the tour, who is going from city to city to reblock, to make sure that things are the way they need to be. Versus and then like, great, you have it for a plays, which is more what I do, where it's a little more responsibility. I think especially in the times of COVID, if the director for the production I'm working on gets sick, I'm going to be the one, you know, leading us in the previews. I would be the one leading those put-in rehearsals and stuff like that. Versus an assistant, which is more at times educational and administrative. So it's more the taking notes. It's more, oh, Dominique, can you run lines with? Yeah, of course, right? It's more administrative, and you're really getting the chance to watch. Whereas I feel like with associate directing, you are much more involved in the creative process. Because you got to do the thing eventually. Right? There was going to come a point where, like the show I'm doing at the Shed, once the show is open, I'm still going to a number of rehearsals to make sure that, like, to give notes, to make sure that things are running smoothly.
Right. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
If you could talk to the little boy or little girl who's sitting in Iowa, and they're the only Black person in their classroom, but they have a dream of being this big Broadway director and want to move to New York, what are some steps you would tell them to take right now?
So you want to be, what are they, a kid? Like where are they in the
high school?
High school, great. So I think the first step would be making sure that you find a theater program. If you're going to college, make sure you find a theater program that has a rigorous and like not impressive, but directing program. And I think the thing that's important is finding a program, but also looking up the work of the people, of like the head of directing, of the directing professors, so you can see, because it's all online, right? Like all that stuff, directors have to have websites. So you can see where you feel like you fall in those practices. Who are these people? How do you feel like you relate to them? Are they making the type of art you want to make? Are you going to spend 4 years making art, practicing making art with people who you feel like will be able to teach you? Or do you feel like it might be, you know, I don't want to direct all these straight plays, I want to direct musicals, right? Because those are two different things. Those are two different, oftentimes, techniques. So I think the first is really making sure that you find a program where you feel that you're going to be able to grow. The second is when you graduate, if you go to like a college that has the resources and the funding, figuring out while you're in school who you'd like to be working with when you're out. Because I think that is really important, right? And it's a thing that I didn't quite have an idea about yet. But who are the people working? If you want to move to New York and work on Broadway, who are the people working on Broadway? Who are the people working off Broadway that maybe are about to hit that next level, or they're different things, who are about to hit a Broadway level, who are about to hit a Broadway show, and you'd like to see what they do? Who are the resident directors for Broadway shows, right? Who are the associate directors? Who are the ones doing that work that are the closest to what you want to be doing? And how can you meet them? And also, I think Broadway is so particular. So you really got to know where you want to be, what you want to be doing, what type of musical do you want to be doing? Do you want to be doing new musicals? Do you want to be doing revivals? Right? Like, so knowing where you want to be feels really important in that journey.
Gotcha. So you kind of already told us about what's next. And so that's super dope. How can we follow you if we wanted to, follow you on and see and keep up with what you're doing?
Oh don't really use anything anymore.
Okay.
That's the problem.
Is there a website?
Yeah. You can just go to my website, which is just my name. It's just DominiqueRyder.com.
DominiqueRyder.com. You need an Instagram page at least.
I mean, I'm not saying there isn't an Instagram page. Would it take me probably 5 years to use it? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Gotcha. I'm gonna stop being that person. So Dominique, I want to play a game with you called This or That.
All right.
So in this game, I will give you 2 scenarios, 2 words, 2 thoughts, ideas, and you tell me which one you better align with.
Okay.
Okay. We'll start off easy and just move a little further than that. Whataburger or Chick-Fil-A?
Whataburger.
That was quick. Why Whataburger?
I miss it. I miss Whataburger. I've not been able to. It's a thing I only get when I come home because they don't exist here.
Nope.
The burgers can be huge, especially if you're in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I can get Chick-fil-A anywhere. I miss Whataburger.
Gotcha. LA tacos or New York pizza?
I've never had an LA taco, so I'm gonna have to say New York pizza. Because who else doing pizza like New York doing pizza?
I mean, that for sure. Yeah. Sure. Do you prefer a large party or intimate gathering?
Is it COVID?
COVID's not a factor.
COVID's not a factor? I'm probably still gonna say intimate gathering.
I knew that was gonna be it. Or intimate gathering.
I think because intimate gatherings, you know the people, the conversation can flow in a better direction, and you don't have to do the work of like, oh, this is X, this is Y, right? Like these are people that know each other, that know me. We can just jump into it.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Would you rather have $1 million in cash or $1 million home?
Probably $1 million in cash.
Why $1 million in cash?
Because then I can just buy stuff. I mean, like, right, $1 million home is nice, and I respect anyone if they want $1 million home. Mm-hmm. But some bills can get paid with $1 million.
Gotcha. Would you rather, if you had a superpower, would you want to be invisible or be able to fly?
Probably invisible.
Why invisible?
Yeah, probably. It's not even because I think invisibility is a good superpower. I think flying is just complicated because you got to worry about birds, you got to worry about planes. There's just like a lot of stuff. Like there's just a lot of some mental stuff that I have to deal with to be able to fly. I don't think I can do that. Gotcha.
So this was going to be a little rough. Okay. I'm going to just say it up front. Angela Bassett or Felicia Rashad? We love
doing what? Doing what?
Period. The body of work, their lives, period.
So you know what? I probably would have said Angela Bassett, but I just saw Felicia Rashad in Skeleton Crew on Broadway.
Yeah.
And right, it's Felicia Rashad. Like I went in there being like, yeah, this is Felicia Rashad. This is gonna be amazing. Uh-huh. But she sustained an accent, a Detroit accent for the entirety of that production that makes her feel like someone completely different. Mm-hmm. And whatever expectations I had of Felicia Rashad were completely destroyed by just how good she was. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say Felicia because I just saw her in person.
Okay. Denzel Washington or Courtney B. Vance?
We're really out here in these streets.
We love both.
We do. I'm gonna say Courtney B. Vance.
Really?
Yeah.
Courtney.
Recently, I feel like when I'm watching Denzel, I'm watching Denzel.
Okay.
Courtney, just gone, right? Like just sort of disappears, and whoever he's playing is just at the forefront, and I really admire that.
Okay.
I love a character actor. Yeah.
Okay, I'm noticing the trend here. Yeah, I'm noticing the trend. Last question. Would you rather stay up late or wake up early?
I feel like I'm doing both these days. Probably wake up early. Probably wake up early.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. If you go to bed early enough, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there's a way to make it work for yourself.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think you're the first artist that I've talked to in this 40 under 40 that said go to wake up early. Yeah.
And you know what? It's because I'm doing it right now, right? Like rehearsals are at 12. I'm usually up at 8.
Okay.
Rehearsals might be at 11. I'm up at 8. So it's like I feel like I'm doing the early part, no matter how much it hurts me.
Gotcha. Well, that was the game. This or that. It wasn't that bad at all.
No, it wasn't.
Thank you for playing, and congratulations on being one of Urban Arts Magazine's 40 under 40. I hope it's in that corner. So make sure you go follow Dominique. All the shows that he has on Broadway. Buy all the tickets. Send all the buses from your various hometowns so they can go to New York and see what Dominique is doing. Dominique, thank you again, man, and congratulations.
Thank you for having me. This was a joy.
This has been 40 under 40 with Giles, sponsored by Urban Arts Magazine. We'll see you next time.